Hello, welcome to RFC Simply Explained with your host, Jonas Pross. I will today explain to you what are RFCs in a rather rough manner, followed by how to actually read RFC banners and giving you a rough understanding of keywords and other phrases that you will need in order to understand and work with RFCs. Now, first of all, what are RFCs? In my agenda, you can see that besides the question what are RFCs, where we'll also go over keywords and also how to read the RFC banner. Now, when you've asked yourself what are RFCs, there are generally two messages from IT personnel. It's either a holy text or it is a convoluted mess. You see, RFCs are Internet Protocol standards. They specify what it must be included if you're using that standard, and also a whole bunch of other information about said standard. The problem is, those standards get constantly updated. It is sometimes not really written in a manner to be understood by everybody. There may be even issues with like any understanding, because there are significant security information hidden in here, but you might never find them because you're unable to truly navigate this old archive. Because that is important, RFC is an archive. What has been written as an RFC in the archives can never be changed. It has been reviewed, it has been agreed upon that this is the new standard, and now until there's an update, the old one will never be changed. Even the update will simply be posted in a new RFC. Now, to understand what is actually written inside of the context of the RFC, you have to understand a few important words. These keywords will be written in bold or, more often than not, in all caps. So the first word that I will tell you is must. Must is the same word as required or shall, and is an absolute. You see, if something is written as a must, there is no choice. If you want to use this specific standard, you will need to use this. The same with the inverse. Must not or shall not mean you absolutely cannot do this if you want to use the standard. Failure to comply means you do not meet the actual standard, and therefore, security problems and other problems with connectivity shall follow, depending on what kind of standard you're currently ignoring. Next are should. These are recommendations that exist and with valid reason. In particular circumstances, you may ignore them. But there are implications that you need to weigh out before choosing a different course. This one has real implications. If you think you don't need this, you need to really think about, does my alternative that I'm going to use actually, completely cover all the things that this thing should do. On the inverse of should, there is should not or not recommended, and this is the inverse, meaning that these are things that, as far as the committee and the different streams that review this are concerned, are not things you should not do. So, meaning that these are things that if you do them, we are the inverse, you will get certain problems. And these problems may outweigh the benefits of doing them. It may also just be a general behavior that you may want to use, but you have to always be careful of the consequences of actually using this certain thing that was marked as a thing you should not do. Furthermore, we have may. Now, this is the actual optional part. Things that are written as may are purely optional. It may be something that a particular marketplace requires, or that you might think will enhance your product, but your competitor may just omit it for the same reasons. If you have a may option, there must always also be some must options that have been implemented in the standard. You can't have a standard that is entirely may. Otherwise, it would not be a standard anymore because people wouldn't be able to communicate with each other. You always need a certain baselines, which exists, and then optional features can be built on top of that. Now that you understood the actual context of the actual information written inside one of those RFCs or requests for comments, you will see that even though you now understand what is written in here, you may waste your time reading this. That is because all the information, whether or not the thing in the text is actually useful for you, are hidden within the banner. If you understand the banner, you can save yourself a lot of time reading stuff that you actually did not need to read. So understanding the banner is really, really important. First of all, we have the Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF. This is the official mainstream for all RFCs. There are multiple independent streams beside this one, but if it's labeled with Internet Engineering Task Force at the top, it is an official RFC that is currently considered a standard, in some case or not. There are exceptions, and we will come to them. Before RFC 5705, the name of this stream was actually Network Working Group, which has then been renamed as IETF. Now, below this one, you have the request for comments and the number of this certain post. Once more, this is an archive. Nothing can ever be changed. If you need a change, you have to make a new request for comment. So, this one means that this is the 7230th, but there may be something else written here, and that is internet draft. If there is written internet draft followed by a serial number, it is not a request for comment, it is a proposal that anyone on the internet could have written. Just because it is a proposal for a new standard or changes to an existing standard does not mean that the IETF will actually approve and implement it. It may not have been peer reviewed yet at all, and it may be really, really bad to actually use this information written below it. Category following that, we have a standard track for this particular example. There are 4 different categories: standard track, informational, experimental, and best current practice. Standard track and best current practice are actual standards, which is things you should follow. And the distinctions between them can be a little bit fuzzy at times, but if it's from the IETF, there has been a reasonable amount of peer review, and it should be the current actual standard that is being used. At the same time, if it's labeled as informational or experimental, it is not a standard. It has been published by the IETF as either an information for you to acknowledge or an experimental new technology or new standard that you may try out, but it is not the current standard. Following that, on the right side, you have the actual authors. Who wrote it? Where does he work? And finally, when was it written? or rather, when was it published? Following that, you may ask yourself, okay, I now know who wrote it. It is a request. It's everything I wanted. It has the information that I need now, right? Wrong. The next thing you need to check is the thing you're currently reading up to date? Meaning, for example, there could be something that makes your current RFC that you're reading obsolete, and these are obsoletes. As you can see here, this document makes 2 other documents completely obsolete. It replaces both of them, meaning that neither of these are now considered an standard anymore, and these are now considered older versions of said standard. It may not be used anymore, or it may have been discarded. There are many different options what could have happened. Finally, we have updates. Updates is a list of RFC that this document makes substantive changes to. So, when you read this document, go to the RFCs with the updates and read them as well. There will have been changes to these standards that this document explains you, but some things will not have been changed yet. In this example, 2745 was replaced. You do not need to look at this anymore, and should you use something in the standard, you should replace it with whatever's written in 7230. On the other hand, 7230 makes substantial changes, this is the important part here, to 2817, but things written in 2817 that have not been changed in 7230 do still apply to this day. So if you read the thing you're currently reading, you have to read the RFCs that it updates, so that you get the entire picture and that you can actually work within context. Now, this video has already been a little bit longer than originally anticipated. I'm a little above 10 minutes. So thank you for listening. I hope this helped you understand what RFCs actually are in very simple terms. It helped you understand how to work with them to a certain degree. And most importantly, it helped you read the banner correctly and save you some time should you ever be needing to use RFCs for work. My name is Jonas Pross. Thank you for listening, and I see you next time.